Placing handcuffs on a dead body is beyond unnecessary. Welcome back to the show. The family of 25-year-old Jayland Walker spoke about his tragic death at the hands of the Akron, Ohio Police Department just over a week ago on June 27th. What started out as a traffic stop ended with an appalling murder. Akron officials said Mr. Walker fired a shot at them. Now, I don't know if that is a truthful statement or not. It's probably not. Make no mistake about it. This was not self-defense. This was cold-blooded murder. An unarmed man was pursued and fired upon countless times. According to the medical examiner, Mr. Walker sustained 60. Do you hear me? 60 wounds to his body. One of the details the family revealed was he was handcuffed. Let that sink in for a minute. Mr. Walker was handcuffed. He was deceased. The handcuffs were unnecessary. Before death, during death, when the last breath is being exhaled, and after death, once a body has begun the journey to the afterlife, we are seen as a threat. How sadistic a psyche must be to view a body absent a beating heart as a potential threat. How clinically ill you would have to be to see a deceased body as a threat to anybody or anything. How mentally ill that is. How mentally ill you would have to be to raise the lifeless, bloody hand of a man and cuff it because what? You are afraid for your life? Visualize what a body riddled with that many gunshot wounds, 60. Imagine placing your hand on his hand to place steel handcuffs on and, to lock them. Basically securing a man who is already gone. His omega is already here. His omega is already here. When the officers were in pursuit of him, when they were firing shots, did they not see that those bullets were making contact with his flesh? Did they not see he was being hit by the bullets they were firing? Was he resisting in any way that handcuffs were needed? I think we all know the answer to that question. So the first response is to handcuff him, not to ascertain if there's some sort of aid that could have been provided. But we all know, it wasn't a question of whether or not he was deceased. He was obviously deceased. In spite of the obvious, he was still handcuffed. One would assume this, is uncommon, but I don't believe it is. The late Ronald Greene, who was killed 3 years ago, was treated inhumanely on the night of his murder by the Louisiana State Police. Mr. Greene was handcuffed. The paramedics testified she requested the handcuffs be removed. However, the Louisiana State Police refused. She protested, and a compromise of sorts was made. From the EMT perspective, they arrive on a call to a man who does not have a pulse. The first thing they need to do is to begin CPR. So the ideal manner in which CPR is performed is with the patient lying flat on a hard surface. It is impossible to lay flat if you have your hands behind your back. EMT testified to the fact that the Louisiana State Police, one of the troopers, rode in the back of the stretcher with a handcuffed Ronald Greene. So the compromise was made that his right hand would remain handcuffed to the stretcher. Tell me that's not sick. I'm gonna explain to you how sick and sadistic this really is. Still in death, he was seen as a threat. If you've ever been in the inside, in the back of an ambulance, you know how extremely small and cramped a space that is. There is barely enough space for the stretcher and the EMT personnel. But a police officer still found it vital for him to squeeze himself up in there along for the ride. Now, it is important to note that Ronald Greene was unresponsive when EMT was called. He was unresponsive when they arrived. He was unresponsive when EMT requested that they remove the handcuffs so they could provide the sufficient care, the CPR that was needed, right? But you know what? They still refused. And only when they got to Glenwood Medical did they remove the cuffs completely, because Glenwood Medical said, you have to remove these cuffs so we can transfer him from the stretcher, that is EMT's stretcher, and to place him on our stretcher here at the hospital. That's when that right handcuff was removed. At this point, he had been dead over an hour, and they still felt a need to handcuff him, to have him remain in those handcuffs. An hour, do you hear me? He's still a threat in death to armed police officers who are outfitted with firearms, flashlights, which they used to beat him that night, tasers, and God knows, what other trinkets they have. If they see a dead person as a threat, you know how afraid they are of us, walking, living, breathing. It's sick. And you wonder why I'm always strapped. It's sick. At one point, do you stop firing? At what point do you stop firing shots? The badge that you see on this screen, this is the late Louisiana State Trooper Chris Hollingsworth, one of the officers who was responsible for the murder of Ronald Greene. That is Ronald Greene's blood on his little trinket right there and on his uniform. It's been 3 years and we're still waiting on one person to be charged in the murder, although there are several people responsible for his murder. We're still waiting on one indictment, one any damn thing. 3 years. I didn't watch the video of Mr. Walker's murder because I couldn't. And if you've seen any videos on this channel, you can ascertain why. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. All of last month, I was thinking, each day I woke up, there's going to be a charge. Today is the day it's going to happen. And each day, nothing happens. Because I know, or I understand, that DA Belton has received the file that he needed in order to move forward with charges. So, I'm waiting like many other people are waiting. Then the end of the month comes and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe, there's a holiday weekend, the 4th of July, and, Tuesday something's going to happen. And today is Thursday. And I'm not going to lie, I'm stewing right now. I'm stewing. That's the polite way of me saying, just how pissed off I am right now. Because it's been 3 years. And I know the Justice Department has launched an investigation into the Louisiana State Police. Okay. But there's something else that, I'm personally waiting. I'm waiting to see happen. And I've been waiting a long time. So the investigation is fine. It's going to reveal what Louisianians have known since the beginning of time, that the Louisiana State Police have been running amok, and they have been allowed to run amok. They have been allowed to kill us, beat us, harass us, profile us, and every damn thing else, and nobody's going to do a damn thing about it. Okay, I'm not going to go on a rant. But, it's sick. It's sick. You don't have to handcuff a dead body. But it happens all the time. When that family said that, I was like, yeah, I can believe that happened. They did the same thing to Ronald. He was unresponsive when they were arguing with the EMT professionals about uncuffing him. He wasn't resisting or fighting. He was already dead, and they would not take the damn handcuffs off. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Hit that button, share it, subscribe to the channel. I kind of made up in my mind over the weekend. I was kind of thinking about it, and then Tuesday night, was just on me heavy. And I was dreaming all of Tuesday night when my head hit the pillow. I'm going to talk about that in the next video. And yesterday, I really thought about it, and I have made up my mind that every single free moment that I have, I'm going to spend talking about why there are no arrests. I'm going to spend every moment that I can on the ASS of certain people until they do the right damn thing.